Welcome to Rec Room.
For those who don't know, Rec Room is a social hangout game for the VR, allowing people to make custom avatars, rooms, and profiles. Although still being a massive name in the VR community, it wasn't always like this. Today, I'm going to go over the entire history of Rec Room, looking at the stats, community backlash, the rise, and the fall of the game. On May 12, 2016, Rec Room's beta testing was first announced on a Reddit post reading, "Hey R/Vive, we are a small VR game developer based in Seattle. We are making Rec Room a small virtual reality social club. Here is a sneak peek at a very early access test of our avatars, accompanied by a GIF of their first avatar models." Although they were only small at the time, they had no idea of the success coming to them. Around late November 2016, big names like DanTDM and Jacksepticeye, YouTubers both with over 25 million subscribers, played Rec Room under the names Dr. Treyurus and Boopadooba. Although, if you try and find these as players, they don't show up, as at the time the game was only on Steam, meaning there was no such thing as Rec.net. This gave Rec Room an incredible kickstart for a small developer, jumping there, at the time, 93 consecutive players to an incredible 203 consecutive players, doubling it in a month. 2017. Rec Room was doing good for itself, never dropping below triple digits for consecutive players, even though the only games at the time were paintball, disc golf, paddleball, dodgeball, and 3D charades. But that was all about to change. On February 10th, 2017, Rec Room had released their first quest. Rec Room had released their first ever quest. Although there are no official stats for how it did, Rec Room had hit an all-time high, at the time of course, of 273 consecutive players. Clearly the community loved it, but they needed more. If you've ever played Golden Trophy, you know how repetitive it can get. And with only 5 other games to be played in between, the players got bored. Until April 20th, 2017. Rec Room had seen the popularity of their first quest, so they decided to make another. The people loved Jumbotron, and Rec Room had hit another all-time high. Shooting robots in space with your friends hadn't been done before on VR, and people loved it. This continued to happen throughout 2017. They released the quest, the player base spiked, and then slowly went back down. Until October 13th, 2017. By far the best update they had made, and one that started the uprise of the game. At the time, Rec Room was only available on Steam, meaning you'd need a Vive and a PC good enough to run it. You were looking at a minimum of 1,500 to 2,000. A lot of people couldn't afford this. Games don't just need to be good, they need to be accessible. So Rec Room released itself on the PlayStation VR, and, later this month, merged servers with Steam. Although initially it didn't do much, in December, Rec Room had once again hit an all-time high of 476 players, nearly double their previous all-time peaks. 2018. As of the spike in December, Rec Room never dropped back down, always staying above 400 consecutive players, until April 2018. The game's player base had randomly dipped, going from 433 to 343. But why did this happen? Well, simple. The game's updates didn't add a whole lot of content, with, at the time, there only being 9 games, 3 of those being quests. People were bound to get bored, leaving them wanting more, and Rec Room delivered. On June 7th, 2017, Battle Royales at the time were the most popular game type, with Fortnite now going into its 4th season, which people argue to be its peak. Rec Room took some inspiration, making a game mode called Battle Royale. With Population 1 not releasing until 2020, Rec Royale was way ahead of its time, being the first VR Battle Royale game, once again hitting an all-time high of 466 consecutive players. November 6th, 2018, the Maker Pen 2.0 was added, and people loved it. As the months went up, so did the player base. October 384, November 424, December 501. In 2019, the first massive spike in popularity was about to happen, and no one knew it, reaching over 3,000 consecutive players in a month. But first, May 21st, 2019, the Oculus Quest was first released to the public, and with that, Rec Room was one of the first games available to get. Although games at the time were more popular, like Job Simulator and Beat Saber, Rec Room stood out, kinda. A free social hangout VR game? Yeah, we don't talk about that game. Unless YouTube stats tells me only 1.3% of my viewers are subscribed. Is it because the quality of my content is dog shit? No! Seriously though, this video took a really, really long time to make, so I'd really appreciate it if you guys could show your support. What might only feel like a small clip for you means so much to me. If this video does well, I'll make more like this in future. Anyway, back to Rec Room. Initially, the game hadn't blown up. In fact, it stayed like that for a couple months. But why? Well, the Quest hadn't had all the current games that the others had. It wasn't until June 4th that the game finally got Golden Trophy, and June 27th to get Jumbotron, an entire month after the Quest was released. But finally, on July 2nd, 2019, Rec Room had added Maker Pen handles, circuits, and materials for the Maker Pen. This led to endless rooms being created, and rooms still being made today. Although the Maker Pen 2.0 was released in November of 2018, there wasn't a whole lot you could do with it. But now, you could make fully functional rooms. The game's player base had smashed any previous record, now sitting at 3,394 consecutive players, being 6 times greater than its previous record. Although, this didn't really last long, like, at all. The next month, the game had dropped back down to averaging 450 players monthly. For the rest of 2019, Rec Room had added some other small updates, Sunrunner, iOS release, and whiteboards. Oh, God damn, my mouth is getting drier than an never mind. Yo, Speedy, come take over for a minute.
Yeah, no problem, I got you, man. 2020, the rise begins, with the game now having a solid foundation, being on 4 different platforms, having 16 originals, and having the ability to create custom rooms with the newly improved Maker Pen. Rec Room was finally ready to explode, just waiting for that one moment to happen. And in 2020, exactly that had begun. Although no major updates had happened in 2020, the community was still slowly rising, and there was no sign of stopping to come. But why? At the time, they hadn't released any crazy updates. VR was becoming more accessible, and VR chat became more, Hype was consistently growing in 2020. With the game being released on Xbox, Rec Room had a completely new player base and an exponential amount of growth. Rec Room ended the year 2020 with 1,770 consecutive players, and for once it wasn't just a spike, it kept growing and got way more popular in the year.
Alright, I'm back, you can go now.
Am I getting paid for this?
2021, the game's popularity was never ending, and the growth was exponential. The game was sitting consistently at over 2,000 players, with content creators like Harry Manlegs, Bofire, and Mavlin VR having their most popular videos around 2021. Like Harry Manleg's Dorm Tours getting over 1 million total views, and Tidal Wave, another upcoming YouTuber, who, side note, I hate you Tidal Wave, you releasing Prappiest Goals in Rec... Wait, hold on, Shrimp, is that you? What the fuck are you doing, man? Right. The popularity wasn't just on creators though. Something else happened. Now think with me. What could have happened that made people want to socialize? Almost as if they couldn't in real life. Almost like some sort of global pandemic quarantine. Oh yeah, thanks China. During the quarantine, people couldn't go out and socialize with their friends. School got closed and people were bored. The closest thing you could get to being with your friends in real life was VR? And with VR chat becoming, well, VR chat. If this video gets 10,000 views, I'll make a video on that. Rec Room was the next best thing. 2022, the peak. Almost immediately as the year had started, Rec Room would hit its all-time peak in February, sitting at around 7,091 consecutive players. The League of Heroes was released and the UI was changed. In my opinion, the worst update they ever did, hashtag bring back the old UI. And then the game's player base started dying, dropping in only 1 month nearly 1,000 consecutive players. And by July, it had dropped from 7,000 players to only 3,000. What happened? Well, the lack of updates was the start, and with more children getting VR, the community became...
Oh, you're still a virgin.
Actually, no,
I'm
I'm
gonna
not.
assume that you're still a
Actually,
virgin.
no, I'm not. Actually, no, I'm not.
Oh, you're not a virgin.
Cat licked my lily.
So I heard the Rec Room avatars added noses, am I right, guys? They can now be like, I smell pennies!
Yeah, that last one was me. The game kept dying. Each month, the numbers became lower, dropping down to 2,900 consecutive players in October. Now, for the rest of the years up until 2025, nothing really changes. The game's numbers have slowly been dropping, and the game is currently, as of May 22nd, 2025, at 1,300 players. It doesn't matter how many it doesn't matter how many okay collaborations it does. The game lost its spark. The community will never be the same. The Rec Room we used to have has now gone in the trash. I blame it on the goddamn UI changes and Tidal Wave. I honestly don't know which one I dislike more. Why? What was the need to change the UI? It was perfect. Perfect. And don't get me started on As I said before, this video took an insane amount of time and effort to make, and I'd really appreciate any support you could give. As a matter of fact, I'm such a small content creator that I still get notifications when people subscribe. If you could consider clicking that button, I'd greatly appreciate it in helping me to the road to 1,000 subscribers. And also, a massive shout out to Top Hog Speddy for helping me make this. If you want to see more content from the two of us, be sure to check out both my channel and his. You'll find a goldmine of funny videos there. And of course, all hate towards the content creators is a joke. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Toodles.